The plate crashed to the floor and shattered into a dozen pieces. Kehinde Bakare stood over the broken ceramic, his chest heaving like he'd just run a marathon. Rice scattered across the concrete floor of their small kitchen. The few pieces of dried fish that Adunni had managed to buy with her last naira lay mixed with the debris. 8-year-old Tunde pressed himself against the wall, his thumb creeping toward his mouth. His sister Folik grabbed his hand and pulled him behind her thin frame. "Papa, we were just eating," the girl whispered. "Eating what?" The father's voice bounced off the walls. "Where did this food come from?" Adunni stepped between her husband and the children. Her hands shook as she reached for the broom in the corner. "I bought it with the money from washing Mrs. Adeyemi's clothes. The children haven't eaten since yesterday morning." Kehinde's jaw muscles twitched. He clicked his tongue 3 times, fast and sharp. That sound always came before the worst moments. "You bought food without asking me?" "They're hungry. Look at them." But he wasn't looking at the children. His eyes darted to the window, then to the door, then back to the scattered rice on the floor. His fingers drummed against his thigh in that nervous pattern that had started 3 months ago. "We can't afford food right now. We can't afford not to feed our children." The words hung in the air like smoke. Tunde's stomach growled loud enough for everyone to hear. The boy's ribs showed through his faded school shirt. Kehinde moved fast. Too fast. He grabbed the second plate from Folak's hands before she could react. This one held the last of the rice, the portion she'd been saving for her brother. "Papa, no!" The dish followed the first one to the floor. More ceramic. More wasted food. More hungry children staring at their father like he'd lost his mind. Maybe he had. Adunni lunged for the pot on the small gas burner, trying to save what remained. Her husband reached it first. His calloused electrician's hands wrapped around the metal handle. "Don't you dare," she said. He looked at his wife, really looked at her. The woman who used to laugh with her whole body. The woman who used to braid the neighbor's children's hair while singing old gospel songs. The woman who now flinched when he entered a room. For a moment something flickered in his eyes. Something that looked almost like the old Kehinde. Then his phone buzzed in his pocket. The sound cut through the kitchen like a blade. His face went pale. His hand trembled as he pulled out the cracked Nokia phone. One text message. 3 words. His grip tightened on the pot handle. "Please," Adunni's voice broke. "They're just babies. They need to learn." His voice sounded hollow, like it was coming from somewhere far away. "They need to understand that nothing in this world is free." He lifted the pot and walked to the window. The same window where Mama Siddiqat from next door always positioned herself to watch their family's business. She was there now, her round face pressed against the glass, her mouth forming a perfect O of shock. "Good. Let her watch." The man opened the window and turned the pot upside down. The remaining rice fell into the dirt outside like white rain. A few chickens rushed over to peck at the unexpected feast. Behind him, Tunde started to cry. Not the loud wailing of a tantrum, but the quiet, hopeless sobbing of a child who'd learned that crying doesn't bring food back. Folek wrapped her arms around her little brother and glared at their father with eyes that looked far too old for a 12-year-old face. "I hate you," she whispered. Kehinde set the empty pot on the counter. His hands were steady now. The trembling had stopped. "Good. Hate keeps you strong." Adunni stared at the man she'd married 9 years ago. The man who used to check on the children 3 times every night. The man who once walked 2 hours in the rain to buy medicine when Tunde had fever. "What happened to you?" His phone buzzed again. Another message. His face went from pale to gray. He walked toward the door without answering his wife's question, without looking at his hungry children, without explaining why he'd just thrown away the only food they'd seen in 24 hours. "Where are you going?" "Out." "When will you be back?" "When I'm back." The door slammed behind him with enough force to rattle the thin walls. Through the window, Mama Siddiqat shook her head and made the sign of the cross. She'd seen plenty of men lose their minds over money troubles, but this was different. This was darker. Adunni knelt on the floor and started picking up pieces of broken ceramic with her bare hands. A sharp edge cut her palm, but she didn't stop. The pain felt almost good compared to the numbness spreading through her chest. "Mama, are we going to eat today?" Tunde asked. She looked at her son's hollow cheeks and her daughter's protective stance. These children who jumped every time their father's key turned in the lock. These children who'd learned to hide food in their school bags because home wasn't safe anymore. I don't know, baby. I don't know. Outside, the father climbed onto his motorcycle and kicked the engine to life. The phone in his pocket buzzed a third time, but he didn't need to read the message. He already knew what it said. He already knew where he had to go. And he already knew that tomorrow his children would be even hungrier than they were today. The motorcycle disappeared around the corner, leaving behind a cloud of exhaust and the sound of two children crying in an empty kitchen. But Kehinde wasn't the only one watching the house. From across the street, a black sedan with tinted windows sat parked under the shade of a large tree. The engine was off, but someone was definitely inside. Someone who'd been waiting. Someone who'd seen everything. Adunni's alarm buzzed at 4 in the morning, but she was already awake. She'd been staring at the ceiling for hours, listening to Tunde's stomach growl in the darkness. The boy had finally fallen asleep around midnight, curled up against his sister on the thin mattress they shared. Her husband's side of the bed was cold, empty. He hadn't come home. The mother slipped out from under the worn sheet and felt around for her clothes in the dark. Her palm still stung from the ceramic cut, but there was no time to baby it. Mrs. Adeyemi expected her laundry done before sunrise. The kitchen looked like a crime scene in the pale morning light. Broken plates, scattered rice grains ground into the concrete, the empty pot sitting on the counter like evidence of something terrible. Adunni swept the debris into a pile and dumped it in the plastic bucket they used for trash. No point crying over broken ceramic when there were mouths to feed. She filled a small basin with water and soap flakes, then gathered Mrs. Adeyemi's clothes from the bag by the door. Rich people's laundry. Silk blouses that cost more than she made in a month. Designer jeans that her children would never own. Her hands worked automatically, scrubbing and rinsing while her mind raced. Where had Kehinde gotten money 3 months ago? The money that let him quit taking electrical jobs. The money that disappeared as fast as it came, leaving them worse off than before. And why did he keep checking his phone like he was waiting for bad news? Mama? Folak stood in the doorway, her school uniform wrinkled from sleeping in it. The girl had learned not to ask for breakfast anymore. Get your brother ready for school. I'll find you something to eat. With what money? The question hit like a slap. 12 years old and already talking like an adult. Already understanding that food costs money they didn't have. Let me worry about that. The daughter disappeared back into the bedroom. Adunni heard her whispering to Tunde, probably telling him not to complain about being hungry. These children who'd learned to suffer in silence. The woman finished the laundry and hung it on the line behind the house. The sun was climbing higher, which meant the market would be opening soon. She had exactly 200 naira hidden in her bra. Enough for bread and maybe some ground nuts. Maybe. Adunni! Come here! Mama Siddiqat's voice carried over the fence like a siren. The woman was already positioned at her usual spot by the window, her round face bright with fresh gossip. I saw what happened yesterday. That man has lost his mind completely. Good morning to you too, Mama Siddiqat. Don't good morning me. We need to talk about your husband. Adunni kept walking toward the gate, but her neighbor wasn't finished. He threw food away. Food! While his children watched. What kind of man does that? The kind who used to check door locks twice every night. The kind who used to sing silly songs while fixing broken radios. The kind who cried when his brother died and then turned into a stranger. He's going through a difficult time. Difficult time? The neighbor's voice pitched higher. My dear, difficult times don't make you cruel to children. Something else is happening here. Something else. The words followed Adunni to the market like a shadow. The vegetable sellers were setting up their stalls when she arrived. Tomatoes piled in neat pyramids, peppers arranged by color and size. Onions that made her mouth water because she remembered what real cooking used to smell like. You're early today. Mama Kemi, who sold the cheapest bread in the market, waved from her corner stall. The woman had been watching the family situation with the careful attention of someone who'd been poor herself. The children need to eat before school. Of course they do. The vendor selected 2 small loaves and wrapped them in brown paper. That's 400 naira. Adunni's stomach dropped. The price had gone up again. I only have 200. Mama Kemi glanced around the market, then leaned closer. Take the bread. Pay me the rest when you can. I can't accept charity. It's not charity. It's credit. There's a difference. The mother's pride wrestled with her children's hunger. Hunger won. She took the bread and hurried home where Folak and Tunda waited by the door with their school bags. Both children stared at the brown paper package like it contained gold. Eat quickly. You'll be late. They tore into the bread with desperate efficiency. No butter, no jam, just dry bread that disappeared in minutes. But their faces brightened for the first time in days. Is Papa coming home today? Tundi asked through a mouthful of crumbs. I don't know. Maybe he won't, his sister muttered. Maybe that would be better. The words hung in the air like smoke. A 12-year-old girl wishing her father would disappear. A little boy who flinched at the sound of motorcycle engines. What had they become? After the children left for school, Adunni walked to the clinic where she cleaned offices 3 nights a week. Doctor, Yemisi might have extra work. Anything to earn a few more, Naira. The clinic was busy with morning patients, but the doctor spotted her through the crowd. I was hoping to see you. Do you have extra cleaning work? I can start immediately, Doctor. Yemisi studied her face with the careful attention of someone trained to notice details. Actually, I wanted to ask you about something else. About your brother-in-law, Biodun. The name hit like cold water. He's dead. I know. I was the doctor who treated him the night he died. Adunni's hands went still. In 3 months, no one had talked about Biodun's death. Not the police. Not the neighbors. Not even her husband. Especially not Kehinde. The car accident, she said carefully. That's what the police report says, Doctor. Yemisi's voice was neutral, professional. But the injuries I documented don't match a simple car accident. The market noise faded into background static. Vendors calling out prices. Children laughing on their way to school. Normal sounds from a normal world that suddenly felt very far away. What are you saying? I'm saying someone should ask more questions about what really happened to your brother-in-law. The physician handed her a piece of paper with a phone number written in neat handwriting. Call me when you're ready to hear the truth. Adunni walked home in a daze, the paper burning like fire in her palm. Biodun's death, her husband's strange behavior, the mysterious phone calls, the money that appeared and disappeared. Everything connected to that night 3 months ago when Kehinde came home covered in mud and refused to explain where he'd been. The night he'd held her so tight she could barely breathe and whispered, I'm sorry, over and over until she fell asleep. She was almost at her gate when she noticed the black sedan parked across the street. The same car that had been there yesterday. The same car that was there now, engine running, windows tinted so dark she couldn't see inside. But someone was definitely watching. Someone who knew exactly what had happened to Biodun. And someone who wasn't finished with the Bakare family. The father's motorcycle coughed to life outside the Adabawal Construction Company building. The glass and steel structure rose 6 stories above the dusty street. All gleaming surfaces and imported marble. A monument to success built on government contracts and corner cutting that nobody talked about. At least nobody who wanted to stay healthy. Kehinde parked between 2 luxury cars and checked his phone again. The same 3 messages from yesterday, each one more direct than the last. Office. Now. Don't keep me waiting. Remember what happens when you're late. The security guard at the front desk recognized him. No smile, no greeting, just a curt nod toward the private elevator that led to the top floor. Chief Adabawal's office occupied half the 6th floor, with floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a view of the entire district. The man himself sat behind a desk the size of Kehinde's entire kitchen, his gold watch catching the morning sunlight. You look terrible, the businessman said without looking up from his paperwork. The electrician remained standing. They'd done this dance enough times that he knew the rules. Speak when spoken to. Answer questions directly. Don't ask for mercy. The money you requested. I don't have it. I didn't request anything. I told you what you owe me. There's a difference. Chief Adabawal finally looked up, his eyes scanning the visitor's worn clothes and hollow cheeks. The man who'd once employed both Bakari brothers for electrical work on his construction sites. The man who'd smiled and shaken hands at Kehinde's wedding. The man who'd killed Biodun and made it look like an accident. Your wife was at the market this morning begging for bread on credit. The father's hands clenched into fists. Leave my family out of this. Your family is this. Your beautiful wife Adunni. Your smart daughter Folak. Little Tunda with his toy car. The toy car detail hit like a punch. Chief Adabawali knew things he shouldn't know. Had been watching closer than anyone realized. I need more time. Time? The contractor laughed to sound like breaking glass. You've had 3 months. 3 months to understand that your brother saw something he shouldn't have seen. 3 months to appreciate that I'm being generous by letting his family live normal lives. Normal lives. Children who jumped at loud noises. A wife who flinched when he entered a room. A family that was starving because every naira went to keeping them safe. The construction accident wasn't an accident, Kehinde said quietly. Accidents happen on construction sites. Workers get careless. Scaffolding collapses. Very tragic. 6 men died because you used substandard materials. The businessman's smile never wavered, but something cold flickered in his eyes. And your brother happened to be working late that night, happened to see the materials being delivered, happened to take photos with his phone. The photos that had gotten Biodun killed. The photos that Chief Adubawali had retrieved from the wreckage of a car accident that wasn't an accident. I destroyed those photos. You have nothing to worry about. I have everything to worry about, because he was smart enough to make copies. And those copies disappeared before I could find them. The visitor's stomach dropped. This was new information. Dangerous information. I don't know anything about copies. Maybe not. But Dr. Yemisi at the clinic has been asking interesting questions about your brother's injuries. Questions that suggest she doesn't believe the police report. The room felt smaller suddenly, the air thinner. What does that have to do with me? Chief Adubawal stood and walked to the window, his hands clasped behind his back like a general surveying a battlefield. She treated Biodun the night he died. She documented injuries that don't match a car accident. Blunt force trauma to the back of the head. Defensive wounds on his hands. Kehinde's mouth went dry. She's been asking your neighbors questions. Talking to your wife. Getting very close to truths that need to stay buried. I can't control what the doctor does. No, but you can control what your wife tells her. The contractor turned back to face his visitor, his expression pleasant and reasonable. The same expression he wore at church on Sundays when he donated money for new hymnals. I need Dr. Yemisi to stop asking questions, and I need your wife to stop answering them. How am I supposed to do that? Be creative. You're good at making your family do what you want. The words stung because they were true. The father had become an expert at controlling his family through fear and confusion, at making them too scared to ask the right questions. And if I can't? Chief Adubawal walked back to his desk and opened a manila folder. Inside were photographs, recent photographs. Folake walking to school with her backpack. Tunde playing in the dirt outside their house. Adunni hanging laundry on the line. Your children are beautiful. It would be terrible if something happened to them. The photographs scattered across the desk like evidence in a murder trial. Each image a promise of violence. Each smile on his children's faces a reminder of what he stood to lose. You're threatening my children. I'm protecting my business. There's a difference. The electrician reached for the photographs, but the businessman's hand slammed down on top of them. These stay with me. Insurance, you understand. What do you want me to do? Make Dr. Yemisi understand that some questions are dangerous to ask. Make your wife understand that some doctors can't be trusted. Chief Adubawal slid a thick envelope across the desk. And take this to show your family that cooperation has benefits. Kehinde stared at the envelope without touching it. Money that would feed his children for a month. Money that came with strings attached to his family's throats. Take it. His hand moved without permission, fingers closing around the envelope. The weight of it felt like lead. Good. Now go home to your family. Spend time with them. Remind yourself what you're protecting. The visitor turned toward the door, the envelope burning in his pocket like stolen goods. Oh, and one more thing? He stopped without turning around. Dr. Yemisi has been asking questions about more than just your brother's death. She's been asking about me, about my construction sites, about safety records that might interest government investigators. The elevator doors opened with a soft ding. Handle this problem or I'll handle it myself. And my methods are much less gentle than yours. The father stepped into the elevator and watched Chief Adubawal's smile disappear behind closing doors. The ride down felt like falling. By the time he reached the ground floor, his phone was already buzzing with a new message. But this one wasn't from the contractor. This one was from Dr. Yemisi. I need to see you immediately. I found something about your brother's death. Something that changes everything. Adunni stared at the physician's phone number until the ink seemed to blur on the paper. The black sedan was still parked across the street when she looked up, still watching, still waiting. She walked inside and locked the door behind her, then pulled out her old Nokia phone. Her fingers hovered over the keypad for a full minute before she started dialing. Dr. Yemisi? This is Adunni Bakare. Thank you for calling. Can you come to the clinic? We need to talk privately. About Biodun? About your family's safety. The line went dead. The mother grabbed her headscarf and headed back outside. The black sedan's engine started as soon as she stepped through the gate. When she turned left toward the clinic, the car pulled out and followed at a distance, not even trying to hide anymore. The clinic waiting room was packed with mothers and crying babies, but Dr. Yemisi appeared immediately and led her to a small office behind the examination rooms. Close the door. The physician pulled a manila folder from her desk drawer. Inside were medical charts, photographs, and what looked like police reports. 3 months ago, your brother-in-law came to this clinic with injuries that didn't match the story he told me. What story? He said he'd fallen down some stairs, but the pattern of bruising suggested he'd been beaten with a blunt object multiple times. Adunni's hands went cold. He was scared, kept looking over his shoulder, asked me not to file an official report. Did you? I documented everything, took photographs, filed the paperwork with the police the next morning. Dr. Yemisi opened the folder and spread the contents across her desk. Medical charts covered in technical language, photographs of bruises and cuts, a police report stamped with official seals. 2 days later, he was dead. Car accident, according to the official investigation. You don't believe that? I know it's not true, because I have this. The doctor pulled out a small digital camera and turned on the display screen. The image showed Biodun's face, battered and swollen, his eyes wide with fear. He asked me to take these pictures, said if anything happened to him, someone needed to know the truth. The truth. Adunni stared at her brother-in-law's face on the tiny screen, the gentleman who used to fix broken radios and sing silly songs with the children. The man who died in a car accident that wasn't an accident. Who did this to him? He wouldn't say, but he mentioned a construction site, an accident that killed 6 workers, materials that weren't what they were supposed to be. Adabawala construction. It had to be. You need to stop asking questions about this. Why? Because it's dangerous. Because people are watching my family. Because my husband has been acting like a stranger since Biodun died. The physician leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper. Your husband knows something, doesn't he? Before Adunni could answer, the office door burst open. Kehinde stood in the doorway, his clothes wrinkled and his eyes wild. Behind him, the clinic receptionist wrung her hands apologetically. I'm sorry, doctor. He pushed past me. It's fine. Close the door behind you. The father stepped inside, his gaze moving from his wife to the doctor to the photograph spread across the desk. What is this? The truth about your brother's death, Doctor, Yemisi said calmly. He died in a car accident. He was murdered. The word hung in the air like smoke. Murder, not accident, not tragedy. Murder. The electrician's hands clenched and unclenched at his sides, the same nervous gesture he'd developed since Biodun's death. You don't know what you're talking about. I know your brother came to me beaten and terrified. I know he died 2 days later in a very convenient accident. And I know you've been lying to your wife about what really happened. Adunni stood up slowly, pieces of a puzzle clicking into place in her mind. You knew. You knew he was murdered and you never told me. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. Your brother was killed and you kept it secret. His phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and his face went pale. We need to leave. Now. I'm not going anywhere until you tell me the truth. The truth will get us all killed. Doctor. Yemisi gathered the photographs and medical charts, stuffing them back into the manila folder. Someone's been threatening you, haven't they? Someone who doesn't want questions asked about Biodun's death. The father's silence was answer enough. Who is it? Adunni demanded. It doesn't matter. It matters to me. Her voice echoed off the walls of the small office. Outside, the waiting room went quiet. Kehinde pulled the envelope from his pocket and set it on the desk. thick with cash. More money than the family had seen in months. This is what cooperation looks like. This is what keeps our children safe. Safe from who? From the people who killed Biodun. The truth finally spilled out like water from a broken dam. 3 months of lies and secrets and desperate choices. 3 months of protecting his family by destroying them. Chief Adubawali, Dr. Yemisi said quietly. The electrician's head snapped up. How do you know that name? Because he's been asking questions about me. About what I know. About who I've been talking to. The physician walked to the window and peered through the blinds. There's a black sedan parked outside. Same one that's been following your wife. Adunni joined her at the window. The car was closer now, parked directly in front of the clinic. They're not just watching anymore, the doctor said. They're moving. The father's phone rang. Not a text this time. A call. He answered on the first ring. Yes? Chief Adubawal's voice was loud enough for all three of them to hear. You disappoint me. I asked you to handle a simple problem and instead you've made it worse. I'm handling it. No, you're having family meetings with the very person I need silenced. That's the opposite of handling it. Through the window, they watched two men get out of the black sedan. Big men in dark suits who moved with the confidence of people accustomed to violence. Dr. Yemisi has been asking too many questions. Your wife has been giving too many answers. And you've been too weak to stop either of them. The men were walking toward the clinic entrance. So I'm going to solve this problem myself. The line went dead. The physician grabbed the manila folder and headed for the back door. There's an exit through the supply room. Move. But as they reached the rear of the clinic, they could see another car pulling up behind the building. More men. More guns. They were surrounded. And Chief Adubawal was done being patient. Dr. Yemisi pressed her back against the supply room door and listened to heavy footsteps in the clinic hallway. Is there another way out? Adunni whispered. The roof. There's a maintenance ladder. Kehinde shook his head. They'll have people watching from outside. We're trapped. Then we fight. The physician opened a metal cabinet and pulled out a small digital recorder, the kind doctors used for patient notes. I've been documenting everything. Biodun's injuries, the inconsistencies in the police report, Chief Adubawal's threats. She pressed a button and the contractor's voice filled the small room. Dr. Yemisi has been asking too many questions. Your wife has been giving too many answers. You recorded the phone call? I record everything now. Learned that habit after the first time one of his men visited me. The footsteps were getting closer. Someone was checking each room systematically. The father pulled out his phone and started dialing. Who are you calling? Someone who might actually help? The phone rang twice before a gruff voice answered. Inspector Taiwo. This is Kehinde Bakare. You investigated my brother Biodun's death 3 months ago. The car accident case. What about it? It wasn't an accident. And we have proof. A long pause. Then, where are you? Community clinic on Abiyakuta Street. Chief Adubawal's men have us surrounded. The construction contractor? The same one who's been paying you to look the other way. Another pause. Longer this time. You're making serious accusations. I'm making true accusations. And if you want to be on the right side when this comes out, you'll get here fast. The electrician hung up and looked at the two women. Inspector Taiwo is either coming to arrest Chief Adubawal or coming to arrest us. 50-50 odds. The footsteps stopped outside their door. A voice called out deep and professional. Doctor, we know you're in there. Come out and nobody gets hurt, Doctor. Yemisi looked at the manila folder in her hands, then at the digital recorder. I'm not giving up 3 months of evidence because some corrupt businessman wants to cover his tracks. She walked to the small window above the supply sink and pushed it open. The police station is 6 blocks away. If I can get there with this evidence, you'll never make it. Maybe not, but I have to try. Before anyone could stop her, the physician climbed through the window and dropped into the alley behind the clinic. Immediately, shouts erupted from outside. Car doors slammed. Engines roared to life. The husband and wife were alone in the supply room. Why didn't you tell me? Adunni asked quietly. Because I thought I could handle it. Because I thought keeping you ignorant would keep you safe. Instead, you nearly destroyed our family. I know. The door handle turned slowly. Mr. and Mrs. Bakare, please come out. We just want to talk. Kehinde looked at his wife, really looked at her. The woman who'd worked 3 jobs to feed their children. The woman who'd endured months of his inexplicable cruelty without leaving him. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this. No, but maybe this does. The father opened the door. 2 large men in dark suits stood in the hallway. Professional. Calm. The kind of men who solve problems permanently. Where's the doctor? Gone. Where? I don't know. The first man stepped closer. His hand moved inside his jacket. Mr. Bakare, Chief Adabawal is a reasonable man. He doesn't want to hurt your family, but he needs certain problems to disappear. What kind of problems? The kind that ask too many questions. The kind that have evidence they shouldn't have. Through the clinic's front windows, they could see police cars pulling up outside. 3 of them, with Inspector Taiwo climbing out of the lead vehicle. The 2 men exchanged glances. Looks like your phone call worked, the first man said. Maybe. Inspector Taiwo entered the clinic with 2 uniformed officers. He was a thin man with gray hair and tired eyes, the kind of cop who'd seen enough corruption to recognize it from across the room. Mr. Bakare? Inspector, where's Dr. Yemisi? She left, with evidence about my brother's murder. The policeman looked at the 2 men in suits. Gentlemen, I'm going to need you to step outside. We're private security, hired to protect the doctor from threats. What threats? The kind that come from asking questions about powerful people. Inspector Taiwo's radio crackled. A voice reported shots fired 6 blocks away, near the police station. Everyone in the room went still. Dr. Yemisi, Adunni whispered. The inspector spoke into his radio. This is Taiwo. I need units to secure the area around the station. Possible witness in danger. The response came back immediately. Inspector, we have a situation. Dr. Yemisi Okafor is here with evidence of multiple homicides. She's requesting immediate protection. Relief flooded through Kehinde like cold water. She'd made it. The 2 men in suits were already moving toward the exit, but the inspector's officers blocked their path. Nobody leaves until we sort this out. The electrician's phone buzzed with a text message. Not from Chief Adabawal this time. From Dr. Yemisi. Evidence delivered. Chief Adabawal being arrested. Your family is safe. But as the father showed the message to Adunni, Inspector Taiwo's radio crackled again. Inspector, we have a problem. The contractor isn't at his office. His security team says he left an hour ago. Where did he go? Unknown. But there's been a break-in at the Bakare family residence. Neighbors report seeing men forcing entry. The mother's face went white. The children. Folak and Tunde are at school, but they walk home at 3 o'clock. Kehinde checked his watch. 2:45. We have to go. Now. Inspector Taiwo was already heading for the door. My officers will escort you. If Chief Adabawal is desperate enough to target children, he didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. They all knew what desperate men were capable of. And they all knew that Folake and Tunde would be walking home from school in exactly 15 minutes. Walking straight into a trap that the contractor had been planning since the moment Dr. Yemisi escaped with the evidence that would destroy him, unless he destroyed the Bakare family first.